What's on your mind? What is up, guys, and welcome back to the What's on Your Mind podcast, where we talk about the things that no one else wants to talk about. And I'm your host, Cash. Welcome to part 2 of Vamps and Werewolves from episode 5 podcast. This is episode 6. This is for all my insomnia folk because, like I said, I love y'all because I am y'all. So, just to reiterate a little bit about what we talked about in part 1, I was watching the movie Day Shift, and it's basically about vampire hunting and how vampires were living among us in our own societies, some disguised as humans or some that actually do look like humans. So I was saying it's so crazy how that could be actually true, and when we drive down the street or when we're in the grocery store, at work, or doing these everyday things, how the people around us could possibly be other beings like vampires and things like that. And then I kind of got into a little bit about if there were other things like werewolves and such. And I had a little insert on how if I was going to choose whether I'd be a vampire or a werewolf, it would be a vampire, because not only do they dress nice, they it's just better. They don't have to eat humans or anybody. They just have to drink your blood. Werewolves, you have to eat the whole body because you need the meat, and they're hairy, and who wants to be hairy? I mean, if you prefer that, then that's fine. Maybe you go the werewolf route. Everybody has their own preference. This is a no judgment zone. But that was basically a little bit about where I went over on part 1. So I'm gonna pick up from there. So basically, just to elaborate on it a little bit more, speaking of like other beings being here and things like that, there has been, everybody knows about the stories of Transylvania, how there's vampires there, but everywhere across the globe has history of vampires and werewolves. And it would just be so small of us to think that all of this just came out of nowhere, somebody's ideas, and then ran throughout history and created these stories, the same stories over and over about vampires and werewolves. It's insane to think that that's just like the same story being told over and over about aliens all around the world, and people still not believing that there's other beings out there. I mean, believe what you want to believe, but the proof is there for you to believe what's actually here. And so that's how I feel about vampires and werewolves and things like that too. Giants, all of that, fairies. Everyone around the world, every ancient culture has a story about these things. So to think that they do not exist, I'm not saying, to think that they don't exist is just crazy to me. I have all the evidence there. If it's kind of like the game telephone. I tell a message, the next person tell a message, and 9 times out of 10 the message can get screwed up. But if the message is the same every time, then what? Because it's just crazy. And then the different depictions of vampires and werewolves as from what the movies and such shows. I mean, some movies, like I referenced before, like some Dracula movies actually have like a hideous dead, like this tall being who kind of looks like a Dobby mixed with like a hobbit kind of situation going on with the big fangs and everything. So it's kind of like, why do they even perceive them as like really good looking, rich, always have money and all these things? They look like humans in some movies, but in some movies they look like these demon monsters. And then in some movies, like The Day Shift, they are demon monsters disguised as humans. So with all that being said, there is a possibility that they could be walking amongst us as us, just like anything else. So it's just like crazy. Like, you're gonna go to sleep after watching this and then be like, wow, Jane at work could be a freaking werewolf, and I never even would know. till a full moon comes, and then you're out with Jane. Then she starts howling and then turns into a werewolf and then tries to kill you. Then I guess is the only possible way you would know. Excuse me. But that was just a really wild thought to me. So I just wanted to like elaborate on it a little bit more. And I still want to know like what you guys think about the idea of werewolves and vampires actually living amongst us more than what we know, what we think we know, because obviously if this whole Transylvania thing took off for a reason about the legends and stories about vampires being there, and it's just like throughout history there's so many stories of seeing these things, and time and time again it's like we get told things don't exist, and then we end up seeing proof of certain things existing, like giants. You see the skeletons that they dig up, and then there are huge bones that clearly state that there were giants, but that's made up. Jack and the Beanstalk could be true. All of these things that we've been told, even down to like mermaids being depicted as sweet beings, but turns out they could be much as evil as sirens and maybe not that good looking. So it kind of makes you think, why do they, if it is real, if it is a true thing, why do they show it to us as something kind and light? Like, that kind of will confuse us in reality if we actually do approach a vampire or a werewolf or something and it is like a scary situation. You'll now won't think of it as such due to the movies and stuff unless you watch 30 Days of Night. If you haven't, you should, because that'll mess you up. But other than that, it's just like crazy. I don't know. But I didn't really have too much to end it with. I just wanted to get a closing point on it and then just elaborate a little bit more on what I was talking about. Because the fight was rolling earlier, if you watched the Crawford versus Spencer fight, that was rolling, and I tried to get the best, like the quietest spot to record, but like the pre-show fights was rolling in the background. But it was a really good fight. Shout out to Terrence Crawford from my hometown. Both opponents, like, they fought to the end, pretty good rounds. Also another good fight that was in there was a lot, but another one that stood out to me that I never seen or heard of before was Cruz and Capiao. I'm sorry if I said that wrong, but yeah, Cruz, he did his thing in there. He did that fight and won. I'm not really would say I'm a huge boxing fan. I watch it sometimes, like here and there, maybe like once every 2 or 3 years.